Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the frozen Antarctic South Pole. If you think I'm kidding, look at there. It says minus 12 degrees in the upper left corner there of that thermometer. Minus 12. That's only 44 degrees below the freezing point of water. I mean, that's not that bad. That's nuts. It's what it is. It's just nuts for this area. I remember it getting colder than that here in Missouri on a couple of occasions. Like I told you, I actually slept outside one night when it was 15 below by the thermometer. It was, I was actually under cover, under roof, but it was the same thing as sleeping outside, as it was just basically an open, it was an old dilapidated house that literally had no windows and holes through the walls. And I had tacked up some plastic and things, but it was cold. Even that night, I had one of those giant green Coleman coolers, and everything inside the cooler froze solid. I couldn't get anything out of the cooler. That's how cold it was. That was inside the house where I was sleeping. Oh my gosh. So it's about like that now. I mean, minus 12. And so this morning what were you doing at 3:30 this morning? My bet it would be you were probably sleeping, right? Or maybe, if you're like me, you can't sleep. Well, you were probably watching television or something, or working a puzzle or something. I wasn't cutting firewood at 3:30. I was putting the last of my firewood into the wood furnace at 3:30. And then at 6:45, just about the crack of daylight, I was out cutting firewood. And, I kept it going. And then I have cut 2 more loads since then today. And they're small loads. I mean, they're just the Ranger. But, it's equivalent to about a trailer load when you get 3 loads like that in the Ranger. So I got enough to get me through the next day or so. Golly, it's nuts. I'd have had more than that. I was preparing to get more wood in here for this cold spell, except that all the equipment tore up on me, the Ranger and everything else. Everything was just giving me trouble. So it just kind of is what it is. The play along for this evening, Cash had to cancel. His grandmother actually did the canceling. Their roads are really bad where they are and haven't been cleaned yet. And they just decided it would probably make sense to stay home tonight. And I said, yeah, it's no problem. I understand. My viewers will be disappointed that Cash won't be here. So I tried to think of something I could do to try to make it a little bit more fun for this evening. And so therefore I came up with a theme for this evening. And it's going to be a Marty Robbins theme. I'm going to do all Marty Robbins numbers, and even including the one that I wrote, which he never saw, but it sounds like a Marty Robbins number anyway. But anyway, we're going to do some Marty Robbins stuff this evening. Now, I know we had a couple of requests, House of Gold, which was one that Cash would do, and then Black Diamond Strings. Maybe I'll throw that one in anyway, just for fun. But basically, we're going to do Marty Robbins this evening. Let's see here. The only other thing I have is the little clip here that I'm going to show you right now. Well, my friends, look what we got here. We got the stove pretty well full. The temperature's coming back up. It dropped down to really low numbers this morning, like 114 or something. And, we basically ran out of wood at 3:30 this morning when I went out to put wood in it. I put the last of the wood in. So at 6:30, I went out and cut my first small load. I put half of that in here. Then I cut 2 more, I'd call them medium-sized loads. And that's the result of that. So I've got enough to get me through another day or day and a half, something like that. 2 days maybe. It's supposed to warm up a lot more by Saturday, so I'll cut a whole bunch more on Saturday. I would have cut more before now, except that the dang Ranger and all the equipment was giving me trouble. Everything was giving me problems. So
It just is what it is. But the house has stayed warm the whole time, so we haven't had any real major problem. It's just one of them deals. Not easy being me. You might have heard that.
Did you ever hear that? It was not easy being me. Well, our guests left the rental retreat this morning. They stayed for about 3 or 4 days. Boy, they picked a perfect time to be here in the frozen wasteland of Antarctica. They left. I seemed like they had a good time, and I did blade the road all the way out, so they had really free run. Really was no consequence for them at all. They did have a 4-wheel drive pickup, so they should have been fine. Well, let's just, and by the way, because of all of this, surely you probably understand that I'm not working on the water wheel right now. So nothing like that's happening. The first thing I've got to do to get back on the water wheel project, though, is to cut a bunch of trees and to cut a bunch of lumber, make lumber out of those trees. So it's a big job. Like I said, building a water wheel, building that house, building all that, if you had a truckload of lumber just brought in that you bought, that's a piece of cake. You build the thing. But I have to make every board I put in it. So it's a lot more work. Well, anyway, let's move up to the top here and see who's here. We got 113 viewers at the moment. David Tharp looks like he was number 1 again. And David Blitz says, good afternoon, Jerry and friends. It's a beautiful day here in Northeast Ohio. Hope all is well with everybody. Keep it safe. David Tharp says, I hate it when someone accuses me of dilly-dallying when it's really obvious that I'm just lollygagging. Yeah, well, come over here, follow me around. We'll cut out both of those. Let's see, Ronald Todd. I used to play mandolin by ear. Now I use my fingers. I don't even know what I play it with. It's probably undefinable. Let's see, Wavy Gravy. First thing I did this morning was go to the grocery store. As soon as I got there, I crawled into the frozen food section just to warm up. Boy, you could do that here. I ain't lying, man. 12 degrees below zero. It's not the same 12 below zero in Celsius, you understand? That's really cold. Let's see. David Tharp. Hey, Jerry, looking forward to tonight's play along. Can you and Cash do When There's Tears in the Eye of a Potato? Maybe next time. I don't know if I can do that one, though, because that one always makes me cry. Let's see. Bill Rhodes. Good afternoon, Jerry. And then Bill says, Jerry, for some reason, my phone just doesn't want to say your name right. I'm so sorry. Well, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I don't care what anybody calls me as long as they call me in time for breakfast. Let's see. Jerry, could you do One Drop of Water by Ralph Stanley? I don't know that tune. I'll write it down just for grins, but like I said, tonight I'm going to just do Marty Robbins. I've always said that Merle Haggard just hands down is my favorite overall. But in terms of just voice, Marty Robbins is really hard to beat. I really like Marty Robbins' voice. It just is so creamy, smooth voice, I just love that sound. Bill says it's a very easy song to do. Well, I'm sure it would be. Every song's easy if you know them. None of them are hard if you know them. Let's see. Dottie Hillebrandt, praying for all the Rosa group. Thank you, Dottie. And Beverly and the country and everybody, so thank you. Wavy Gravy. After a nasty breakup, my neighbor's girlfriend wrote a new lyric to the old tune, If I Ever Get to Heaven. It goes, if I ever get to heaven, I hope to hell I don't bump into you. Okay. Let's see. Sidecar Bob. Hi, all. Watching from bed while fighting a head chest cold. I'm a bit better today, but yesterday it felt like I would break a rib coughing. Boy, I've been there. When I would get my I haven't had it for a while now. I think mainly because I'm staying on my allergy medicines. That allergy thing would always turn into pneumonia for me. It would just literally turn into pneumonia once I got it. And when I got that, I was coughing so hard that it's exactly like the feeling I had. It felt like I was breaking something. I mean, seriously telling you it hurt. After we went live, it looks like Ronald Todd was first one to comment there. And David Tharp says, the first 5 florists I called didn't know the first thing about carpets or tile, and suddenly I'm the idiot. Okay, let's see. Sidecar Bob, the sun is shining here, but I've been too sick to deal with what fell 3 days ago. Well, I would say it'll just be fine sitting right where it is. Don't worry about trying to move it, the snow, that is. Bill Webb says, good afternoon, Jerry and friends. Howdy, Bill. And Ronald Todd says, as a kid in the Boy Scouts, I once spent the night in a lean-to, and it was minus 15. Thank God we had a fire going in front. Yeah, well, I had a fire going in it was a tiny little wood stove, but I had that thing going all night long. I was inside a well-insulated sleeping bag, and I will admit it was an old technology sleeping bag. I also had all my full clothes on with my insulated coveralls on inside the sleeping bag, and I like to froze to death, man. I ain't kidding you. I was sleeping right next to the wood stove. Whew, it was cold, man. It was cold. Like I said, when your stuff freezes inside of a cooler, that's what a cooler's for. Is to, it's that old joke. How do it know when it'll keep stuff hot or it'll keep stuff cold? Because it's so well insulated. Stuff shouldn't change in there, and it shouldn't freeze inside that cooler. But it did. Oh, my gosh, it was terrible. Ronald Todd says, thumbs up, everyone. Bill Mombo, Jerry, I think you're getting lazy. You don't make the nails for the shingles. Yeah, well, you're right. I did buy those. I bought the nails for that. I bought the bolts and some screws and things. I did buy some things, but almost everything else I've pretty much made on this thing. Let's see. Ben Boyd, is there a trick to getting a diesel engine to start when it's below zero? Took forever this morning, and I had to jump start it with the jump engine. Yeah, seriously, there is. I mean, there's 3 or 4 things. First of all, if you can get one of those heated either dipsticks to put in your oil, they actually make them, or some other way to heat your oil, whether it just be simply, a blower, just a little tiny electric heater just sitting there in front of it. Turn it on low and just leave it on all night, and put it in front of the, put it right there where it's blowing on the diesel engine. Keep your engine warm all night. That's really preventative type things is really your best bet. But if you didn't do that ahead of time, of course, and now it's just cold and you're trying to get it to start, well, the best thing to do is to try to still warm it up, with some kind of a heat gun blower, whatever it takes to try to heat it up. That's one thing. And then the next thing is most all diesel engines, at least modern diesel engines, have the glow plug option where you turn your key. Sometimes you turn your key backwards. Sometimes they actually have a separate button you push, or sometimes when you turn the key on, it automatically goes into that mode. I mean, they all have a different way of doing it. But whatever that way is, it's better to do your glow plug, go through your glow plug. I can't talk. Go through your glow plug cycle about 2 or 3 times before you try to start it. That gets it really warmed up. gets that little cylinder head warmed up, and it'll start much faster that way. So those are the things I do, and I generally am very successful getting mine started. But a heater, if you can put some sort of a heater on it, and they do make an actual dipstick that's heated that you can put down in there, and then it'll keep your oil warm. And if you can keep your oil warm, well, then the rest of it's going to be kind of warm, you know. Anyway, it'll make it start better. Let's see, David Tharp, do you do El Paso? No, I don't. I like that song, but it's such a long song. I don't know. I've been kicking that one around, but I haven't done it yet. Sidecar Bob, Scott, you need a block heater. Yeah, there you go, block heater. That's what I was trying to say. I just couldn't think of the word. But yeah, a lot of those block heaters, or some of them, are just a dipstick that you stick down in there, and it's heated. But then again, you know, even without all that, just take a simple little $10, $12, $15 little electric heater and just have that blowing on it all night. Just keep it on low. And as long as you're keeping it relatively warm, it'll usually start a lot faster. Larry Adkins, how much firewood would JR need to cut to help him build a new sleigh for Oliver with built-in seats? Yeah, he's already come to me with that idea. He's going, I'll cut you some firewood. Well, you know what? You know, I don't mean to knock the idea. I mean, the idea is nice. It's nice to trade something. That I don't mind a trade. But seriously, it's going to take me 40 hours working hard to build what he wants. That's if I'm real good and real lucky. It'll be 40 hours. It might be 60 hours. Now, if I spent 60 solid hours cutting firewood, how much wood do you think that'd be? You wouldn't believe how much wood that would be. I mean, it would be massive. Be a massive pile of wood. So that's why I said, forget it. It's just not worth it to me. I can go, literally, those 3 piles of wood that I cut this morning, I probably spent 15 minutes on the first one, 15 minutes on the second, 15 minutes on the third. I probably spent 45 minutes. And, you know, that's the kind of wood he wants to cut in trade for that. I mean, it seriously is. I mean, the other day he cut me, which I'm not knocking the fact that he did it. It was nice of him to do it. But he goes, here, this ought to get you through the cold spell. Well, it was about that much wood that you see in my little video this morning I just showed you. That's about how much wood he cut, which just isn't very much. But if I spent 40 to 60 hours solid cutting firewood, be no problem at all to get through the, you know, well, I mean, I doubt I'd get through much more than a month, but it would get me through at least a month. You know, so that's how much he'd have to cut. If he spent 40 or 60 hours cutting firewood, because I'm going to spend 40 to 60 hours working on his doggone, you know, trailer or sled or whatever, and I got a few other projects. I mean, I literally do already have a couple of things to do. It wouldn't even bother me to work on it for free if I didn't have so much to do already. So there's where I'm stuck. It's just, oh, you haven't. That's right. You haven't heard. It's not easy being me. Michael Broussard, it's cold in Antarctica. It's actually midsummer there. Yeah, well, honestly, we're probably in the same temperature range right now. You know what I'm saying? So if I went down there right now, I probably wouldn't hardly notice the difference. No, I get it. It is summer down there. I agree with you. Like it is in Australia, too. See, Zacharac 55 says, everyone has an engine block heater in Alberta. I bet you do. Yeah, even gas engines probably have them up there. Geez. For sure, man, it's hard to start diesels in the cold, though. But if you do use your glow plug option like 2 or 3 times before you even try to start it, it will definitely help. Brian Byler, I just found out I'm colorblind. The news came out of the purple. Yeah. I've told you all the story so many times, but I'm going to tell it again because there's always new people, and there's also people that just didn't hear it, even though they've been around for a long time. But anyway, I was, in my senior year in high school, we had Mr. Burrows as our science teacher. Mr. Burrows was just one of the old curmudgeon, professorly type guys. I mean, this guy, he just looked like a professor. You know what I'm saying? Even though he was just a high school science teacher, but that's what he looked like. Because he always wore the white lab coat, the whole bit, And anyway, he was always doing stuff. He's the one that found out all my genetic defects that I had no idea I had all these things. I knew I had this weird thing with my taste, but I didn't have a name for it, and I didn't know if it was real or if it was just my mind, because everybody said it was just in my mind, Well, he lays out the color charts one day on the table, and I'd never seen them before in my life. I didn't know what a color chart was, never even heard of it. Didn't even know they existed. I'm in high school. So he lays it out on the table, and the kids are gathering around this, and I'm kind of looking over their shoulders because I'm one of the taller kids, so I'm kind of in the back looking over. And one kid's going, well, there's a 17, there's a 24, there's a 19, there's a 6, there's a 4. And I'm looking at this going, what are you guys talking about? I was floored. I was completely floored. I was, you could have knocked me over with a feather because I'm going, what are they talking about? I couldn't tell what they were seeing. There was nothing there. And yet they were naming all these numbers. Well, this was a great big thing that he had. It was just a huge chart with lots of these things. And then I see two of them in two different places. And, I don't remember the numbers anymore, but like one was a 13 and one was a 27 or something like that, And those were the two that colorblind people can see. And if you make a claim you can't see any of them, well, then you're lying, because even colorblind people can see those two. And that's how they know you're not lying, because I told him right away, I said, I can see those two, but that's the only two I can see. He goes, well, you're colorblind. And boy, it shocked me. But then all these memories came right back. Instantly, almost instantly. I remembered when I was in kindergarten. I'm not kidding you. And these kids would yell at me and say I was stupid because they'd say, hand me the purple crayon. And I'd hand them a crayon that I thought was purple, and it'd be black or something like that, And they'd yell at me, I want the purple, And that was the kind of things that came back to my brain. I remember getting beat by my dad 4 or 5 different times because I'd get the wrong hay. He'd say, now you be sure to get that green hay and you feed those stallions. Well, I'd go down there and I'd look and I'd think what I thought was green. I'd feed it to him. He'd beat my rear end. You're just being obstinate, and he'd think I was just rebelling or being ignorant, I didn't know. But I didn't know I was colorblind either, and of course he didn't either. But man, I guess I am. And then later in life, when I actually did get my eyes tested by a professional, I asked the doctor, I said, how colorblind am I? I said, can you give me a percentage or something? And he goes, man, I don't know. He just kind of did that. He goes, you are profoundly colorblind. That's what he said. It was amazing. And you don't know what you don't know, you just don't know. I had no clue I was colorblind because I don't see just black and white. For whatever it's worth, I do not see just black and white. I see lots of colors, but apparently I don't see them anything like you guys see them. That's what's weird about it. And let me explain to you, the taste thing is the same kind of thing, except I'm the exact opposite. I can taste stuff that you guys can't taste at all. Zero, none, not any. You can't taste none of it. And when I taste it, it is horrendous. It's hard to explain. If you could just taste it for 1 second, even if you did like it before, I bet you wouldn't eat it again. Because it tastes that bad. It's terrible. It's crazy. let's see, moving on down. David Thorpe. I took a long, hard look at myself this morning. Wow, I won't be doing that again. Yeah, that's what I often say. If it wasn't for the arthritis and if it wasn't for having to look in a mirror, I'd swear I was probably, 35, 45. I'd probably be thinking I was 45 now with all the other aches and pains. But I wouldn't think I was much over 45 if I didn't have to look in a mirror. Cool. I retired from Norfolk Central Railroad after 28 years, and I can tell you it gets bone-chilling cold out on the tracks at times. Boy, I bet you. I would bet you. Gino Hitch. Hi, Jerry and friends. Still freezing here in Monroe, Ohio. Hope you got enough firewood. Anything new on the Kawasaki? Also, Grandpa's fiddle would be good. Yeah, well, I'll save Grandpa's old fiddle for, I think the band is going to be here next week. I've got confirmation from most of them. So, we'll save the requests for the most part for next week. But Grandpa's old fiddle, I'll write that down too, just so I have it down. But all right, and let's see, moving on down. Now, as far as the Kawasaki goes, I haven't heard back from him. I told you I did write a full letter to the guy. For one thing, I apologize because I accused his mechanic of not changing the plug. Well, and I still kind of don't think he did, honestly. I really kind of don't think he did, but he could have. I think he just cleaned it up and put it back in there is what I think he did. But I found out when I put a new one in there, it fouled it in just a couple of days anyway. I mean, really about a day and a half. It fouled that new plug already. So there's something going on with that thing. And I did spell it out. I apologized to him in the letter for that, and I also spelled out what I think the real problems are. And hopefully they'll get to the bottom of it. Ronald Todd, I think I remember seeing an old sleigh in one of the buildings. I don't think so. There's a doctor's buggy, and I have another, like a buckboard buggy that I restored that buckboard buggy years and years ago. It actually should work. I mean, if he had a horse hooked up to it, probably should just give him the JR, I guess. Ronald Todd, I think but I don't think there's any sleighs around here that I remember seeing. My dad had a sleigh when I was a kid. He had a big horse-drawn sleigh, but it was a more modern. I mean, the sleigh runners might have been older, but the sleigh body, I think, was made out of all plywood, and it just came apart and all delaminated and fell apart. So I don't know whatever happened to the runners and all that. Let's see, Kim Williford. After you found out that you were colorblind, do you tell your father or after he passed away that that you got checked out? Well, I told my mom and dad about the colorblind thing. I'm pretty sure they believed that. I don't think they ever did believe the thing about the taste. I don't think they ever did. And there's lots of people that in the family, even now, don't believe it. I mean, it was a black and white test. It was a black and white test. I had no clue what he was testing when he tested it. He didn't tell us what he was testing. The way the taste thing, the way he did the taste thing, he just walked in. We got in the room and we were sitting in our chairs before he got in. He walks in his lab coat, and he just walks around to everybody's desk and he just lays this little strip of paper. It looked about the size of litmus paper, but it wasn't litmus paper. He just laid it around on everybody's desk. And then it was more eggshell colored, as I remember. But anyway, he went back up to the board and he starts writing his assignments and things on the board, and he was writing for 5 minutes. He turns around. He says, "That piece of paper I laid on your desk, put it in your mouth." Well, me being like I am with my taste, I didn't put it in my mouth because everything tastes strong to me, and I just thought, well, that's stupid. I'm not going to put that. I was a rebellious teenager on top of it, so I'm just thinking, I'm not putting it in my mouth. So I just left it sit there. I didn't, and nobody in the class said anything about it. Nobody said, oh, that tastes terrible. Nobody said anything. He goes, can anybody taste that? And they all said, no. So I didn't think anything of it. Well, about 30 minutes later or so, he's walking through the class, and I'm sitting in the back, and he walks by my desk, and he sees my paper there, and he's going, hey, did you put that in your mouth? I said, no. And he says, put it in your mouth. Mr. Burroughs, I don't want to. And he goes, put it in your mouth. Okay. Oh, my God, that tastes terrible. He's going, no, you can't taste that. He's thinking I'm faking him out. And I said, I can taste it. I'm not kidding you. It tastes terrible. And he's going, there's no way. I've given this test for 30 years. I've given it to, I have 6 classes a day, and I've given it to every class for 30 years. And I've never had anybody that could taste it. So I'm telling you right now, I can taste it, and it tastes terrible. He goes, well, if you can taste it, then what does it taste like? I said, I don't know. I never tasted anything quite like it. But I said, I guess it tastes like sulfur, or maybe rotten eggs. He just stopped. He's basically got a blank stare on his face, and he's going, I'll be darned. That's exactly what they said it's supposed to taste like. There you go. It's proof enough for me. I don't know if it's proof enough for anybody else, but it was proof enough for me. But anyway, GNP Old Marine Shop says, hi, Jerry. I'm red and green deficient colorblind. Bad to with those old book tests. Luckily, I can see red and green traffic lights. Well, it's funny. It just depends on the light, and I mean more like daylight, and whether it's dark or light or the sun shining. If the sun's shining on it just right, I can't tell one from the other hardly. If it's at night and I'm coming up on the intersection, and if the light is already green, for instance, I can't tell it from a street light. It looks like it's a white street light to me, I can tell when they change, and I can definitely tell the white street light, or the white green light, if you will, from the red light. So I can tell the difference, but do I really see the right colors? I don't know. I guess not, apparently. But I definitely don't see just black and white for sure. Definitely don't do that. In fact, I've done lots of paintings. You can see those paintings on the wall. How do I do that painting right there if I'm totally colorblind? And I do a lot. I've done a lot of paintings in my life, and I've never heard anybody go, why did you paint it that color? So, I guess I somehow figured out. I don't know. But, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Color blindness is not just a black and white thing. Wavy gravy. See what I did there? Wavy gravy. I told my wife that all I see in the mirror is a dried up old man with lots of ailments. And she said, well, at least your eyesight is perfect. Ronald Todd, might have been the doctor's buggy. Yeah, it probably was. And we call it that. I don't know if it really is a doctor's buggy, but it looks just like every other doctor's buggy you see in all the old westerns, That's what it looks like. Dottie Hildebrandt, Jerry, have you ever used glasses for colorblind? Yes, I have. Okay, here's the sad story on that. If you've watched these people on YouTube, they put on these colorblind glasses and they get tears down their eyes and they just think it's the best thing in the world. Well, I have to admit, when I put on this, I bought the cheap pair first, like the $35 pair. And it blew me away. I mean, I definitely saw things different than I ever saw them before. And I thought that the way I was seeing it was right, with the glasses. I'm thinking, wow, it's fixed it. It is really cool. So I spent the big bucks for the $400 pair, waited 2 months to get them. Well, first of all, by the time I got the expensive ones, I was wishing I hadn't bought them, because I had already learned by that time, wearing the cheap ones, that I wasn't seeing colors the way everybody else was seeing them with the glasses. In other words, I can't think of any specific thing, but like my red car looked hunter orange, if you will, through those glasses. I mean, it looked like the fluorescent hunter orange type thing. I mean, it didn't look red to what I would call red. But then again, maybe that's the way red really looks to you. I don't know. That's the weird thing. But I could tell I wasn't seeing things right, because I would say, well, is that purple? And people go, no, that's green, or, that's some other color. You know what I'm saying? And so I could tell that the cheap glasses, they were obviously wrong. So I was really hoping that the expensive glasses would really be right. Well, I get the expensive glasses, put them on, and I swear to you, I could barely tell any difference at all of what I was already seeing and what I saw with the glasses. I mean, I'm not kidding. I could barely tell I would even, other than the fact that they're green tinted like sunglasses. I mean, they're tinted dark like sunglasses. Other than that, as far as the colors I saw, I thought, well, that's what I'm seeing already. This didn't do nothing, So I was totally disappointed with the expensive ones. So in my opinion, while it's kind of cool to see a bunch of other colors you've never seen before, which I did do that with the cheap glasses, it didn't help anything because I'm not seeing the right colors. So it was just a pain. Anyway, let's see. GNP Old Marine Shop says, yeah, Jerry, it's shades. I can tell vivid red, green colors, no problem. Yeah, it's just a weird thing. Color blindness is a weird thing. It's just really weird. And apparently taste is too, but not everybody knows about the taste thing. Gary Hayes, Jerry, is there any place close to you that you could buy a load of logs cheap like Mike Morgan does? I don't know. Possibly, I guess. I guess possibly. It might be something to look into, but then again, I've got 200 acres of stuff here. It would be easier though if they were brought here in a pile and just piled up. It would make it a lot faster for cutting wood. But I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. Anybody in their right mind would do something different than I'm doing. I'll tell you that much. I get that part. But I don't really mind doing what I'm doing, honestly. Sidecar Bob, my mom told about a cousin that used to get tickets for running red lights until she told him that red is always on the top and green is on the bottom. Well, I guess there's color blindness like that too. But for me, it's very obvious they're different colors. I mean, that part's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. Now, sometimes the yellow and the green will look pretty similar. But honestly, the biggest problem I have with it, honestly, is at nighttime, and it's only on certain stoplights. The ones that are the pastel color, the ones that are smooth color, those are not much of a problem. But those old globe ones, the ones that are really the old type bulbs that shine through the glass, those look white a lot of times to me. And I'll be coming up on an intersection and it just looks like a street light to me. It's hard to tell. I mean, I can see that fact generally. I mean, it just depends on where it's located, where it's at in the intersection and all that. But a lot of times I can't tell that it's a signal light. It looks more like a street light. Let's see. Dottie says, did your parents make you sit at the table till you ate everything? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you how many beatings and how long I had to sit for stuff like that. And I wouldn't give in because it was, I'm not exaggerating. It'd be just like if somebody put a shot glass of gasoline there in front of you and you have to sit there till you drink it. You probably would just sit there too. You know what I mean? It's just, it didn't taste like food. I'm sorry. I can't help the fact that that's just the way it is. And then, like I said, I hate the fact it's kind of, I don't know what the right word is. It's kind of, it confirms my condition, the fact that my grandson got it too. I hate it for him. I hate it. I can't even tell you how bad I hate it. But it kind of confirms the fact that it's a genetic thing, and I just got it from somebody in our history. I don't know. Nobody ever heard of anybody that had this, but somehow or another it was passed down, and I got it, and now Trinian has it too. So just one of those weird things. It's very, very, very rare. I mean, it's really, really rare. I mean, just the example that Mr. Burroughs used was that he'd given this test for 30 years, gave it to 6 classes a day for 30 years. Nobody could taste it. Not anybody. Except me. So there you go. Waviger says, you skipped my last post twice, Jerry. Maybe your peepers need a checkup. Well, I read the one there says, I told my wife that all I see in the mirror is a dried up old man with lots of ailments, and she said, well, at least your eyesight's. I read that. Is that the one you're talking about? That's the only one I see above your name there. So there you go. Maybe your ears need a checkup. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. 146 viewers at the moment. We will be back this evening at about 7 o'clock with a Marty Robbins extravaganza. We'll see you then.